I have roughly about 32 years of corporate experience, and after passing out from IIM Ahmedabad, I joined Hindustan Unilever. Those days, there were 4 companies, Unilever group companies like Group Bond, Lipton, Bonds and Hindustan Lever. I spent nearly about a decade there in various divisions. Longest stint that I had was in consumer products, which is beverages. After that, I moved on to another company, which is an American company, Monsanto, and I had a brief stint of about 3 years or so. Then I joined Ranbaxy Pharmaceuticals. Not in their pharma business, but in consumer healthcare. I spent about 2.5 years. So total of in these 3 companies about 15 odd years before I joined Dr Lal PathLabs. So this break happened to me sometime in 2005 when private equity put in money in this small business that time. There was an ambition to scale this whole organization. They were looking for a professional who can come and really drive this business. So I've been here now with Dr. Lal PathLabs for about 17 years. So I think the important thing was to put some of those ingredients which are required to scale the organization. I think the first thing first, which is that build a proper management team, which are required for any large organization. This came very handy to me because I had worked for large companies. The other thing was actually putting the whole strategy in place, which is about this entire hub and spoke model, which we are really driving it. And then just ruthlessly executing the whole strategy and to take this organization to where it is today. Diagnostics is such an important step in the entire disease cycle management. That's probably the first step where, if not done rightly, can have a serious consequences later. It's often said that diagnostics only constitute 5% of the value, but 70% of medical decisions are based on diagnostics. So any misdiagnosis can actually lead to serious consequences, both in terms of clinical outcomes or downstream costs. This is something which one should not really compromise, and make sure that from a patient point of view, take these services from quality providers, and that's very, very important. I think to my mind, focusing on just pricing alone is not enough. I think it's important for patients to really seek these services from quality providers. Now, from a patient perspective, healthcare in general has very high credence value because you have a report in your hand, you don't know what you're getting is right or not. So from a patient perspective, it's just a belief or in the trueness of the report. It's important for providers to make sure that confidence is not shaken, and it's important that quality processes are followed. I think that's where the role of accreditation bodies like UCI, NABH or NABL comes in, where these providers actually go for accreditation and then boost the confidence of patient and medical fraternity at large that you are a quality provider. To my mind, I think diagnostics is very, very important step in the entire journey of healthcare ecosystem. Quality is our DNA, and it's so ingrained in each one of us. On day-to-day basis, we only think of quality. Whenever we talk about quality in diagnostics, there are 3 phases to this. There is a pre-analytical phase, there is analytical phase, and then the post-analytic. And 70% of our errors actually take place at pre-analytical phase. And that's where it's all well distributed, fragmented, very little control on that. So we have a task force, we have a quality department, which provides a very, very laser-sharp focus on quality. Quality is not just about in the lab, quality is also outside the lab, which is a pre-analytical stage. And I think with times it's becoming even more important. That's a message that I have for the industry as well, because this whole hub and spoke model these days is becoming very popular, where patients are now wanting phlebotomists to come to their homes and collect samples. And more collections is going to be closer to the patient, more distributed outside the lab ecosystem. So the quality is becoming extremely important in this space. And if you don't get that right, you can actually have disastrous consequences. So for Dr. Lal PathLabs, quality is the mantra, and we live this virtually every second, every minute of the day. Multiple areas where quality has changed. In fact, last 17 years, what I have seen is that a lot of processes are automated. A lot of automation has come in our lab systems. So I think what's really happening on the workflow perspective, I'm seeing a lot of manual processes are being replaced by automation. There's general awareness in consumers and the patients about that there are some labs which are accredited and some labs that are not. Accreditation is becoming increasingly a way of life. I think India still has a long way to go, and my sense is bodies like NABH, NABL can play a big role in really driving accreditation in India. So that's the second area where people are seeing that you are getting tested from accreditation body. And third, I think is important that the patients are actually clearly seeing, and doctors are also clearly able to relate what the report is, what the history of the patient is, and they are able to make the right diagnosis at the right time. I think that's how this whole quality thing is being perceived in the system. Let's look at it from a patient perspective. There are two broad needs. One is that you need accurate diagnosis, and I think you also need a timely diagnosis. My sense is the accurate diagnosis part is pretty much under control with quality players who are accredited. I think one of the things which probably technology is going to drive now is a timely diagnosis. Because if you are able to diagnose something at an early stage, you have a lot of time at your disposal to deal with the disease. If you don't diagnose it early, it becomes a bit of a challenge. Technological advancements are likely to happen. Get it right at the right time is an area which I probably feel technology will come in. And in that area, this whole area of genomics, etc. is going to come, where you are able to do predictive diagnosis. You are also able to find out whether you are at a high risk of certain diseases. In general, accessibility and affordability are these two variables which are a bit of a challenge from an Indian context. 2/3 of our population lives in rural areas. In these places, both are issues, affordability as accessibility. Now, one of the things that I'm observing in the last sort of 5-10 years, that scale actually has built quite a bit in tier 2, tier 3 towns. It actually tends to make the entire commercial proposition viable. And we are seeing in Dr. Lal's also building a lot of hub labs in smaller cities. The moment you actually widen your test menu in these cities, you automatically build the capability to go deeper into rural areas. It's an area where we need to take initiative and spend a lot of time. There is no level playing field in terms of size of players as well. So you are close to, by one estimate, 100,000 labs, and somewhere I read 300,000 labs. So there are lots of labs across the country. My sense is that it can't be 0-1 situation whether either you are accredited or not accredited. I think probably we need to build a phased approach where there's a level 1, level 2, level 3 of accreditation. I think the basic level of accreditation, if we can bring in large number of players under that umbrella, would be great to start with. Then slowly graduate them to the level next. Bodies can work with some of these large corporates as well, how we can influence the quality. To my mind, I think need or is for us to work together and spread the awareness about quality amongst patients and medical fraternity. Overall, the change will happen.